Kylie has the scripture reading today. One of my favorites for comfort in times when life is blowing us around in the wind.
Psalms 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Amen. Thank you, Kylie. And see that what we were studying in our Sabbath school lesson today about the still waters didn't apply when Peter was walking on the waters, but God was there. Christ lifted him up when he began to sink. And seems though we all have times of still water, and we have times of those waves like Peter was walking on. So Kevin is going to share with us today some of the wind and the waves and the stillness that God can provide.
Well, it's a little different than my usual format, so we'll see how it goes. I was just being me and being ornery, was going to get up here and say, April Fool's joke. But but I won't do that. Let's go ahead and bow our heads for prayer. Dear Lord, please be with us today, and as we listen to testimonies, as we give testimonies, and sometimes maybe what we've been through we don't think anybody else can relate to, but help people to hear what they need to hear today. In your name we pray, amen. All right, so I guess testimony is kind of, I'll just kind of tell you a brief life story of me and kind of the ups and downs I've had. A lot of you have known me my whole life, so you're probably going to get bored. But I should have told you to bring your pillows and your blankets, but I didn't. So I'm going to start with Proverbs 22:6. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." I was very fortunate as a child to be born into an Adventist home. We worked for an Adventist school most of my life. There was a few years that we did not, but for most of what I can remember, we worked at the academy. And I mean, that in itself has its ups and downs. But I remember just as a young kid, my mom taught Sabbath school, and so I would go with her. We'd go early, and she'd get set up, and so I was able to, be involved with that just at a young age. Learn the memory verses, sing the songs. I mean, those songs, you think maybe they might be annoying at the time, but I mean, even when you're older, you remember those songs. It seems like they pop in your head at the weirdest times. Was able to attend church school. One of my best teachers was Mr. Callahan. He taught me from my 4th grade through my 6th grade years. I just owe a lot to him because even when I was what they considered an upper grader, because it was a one-room school. We had 1st grade through 8th grade, and I think that the highest we might have had 12 or 13 in one year. I don't remember for sure, but not a lot of kids. But Mr. Callahan saw something in me, and when he was with the younger kids or with another group, like say if I was in 6th grade and he was teaching reading to the 1st graders, then he would have me doing something with the younger kids. And he told me back then in elementary school, he's like, "You ought to just be a teacher." He's like, "You just need to be a teacher." And I'm like, "I don't want to do that. I'm never going to be a teacher." And that's one of the biggest lessons of my life is just never say you're never going to do something, because usually you look back and you're like, "Okay, said I was never going to do that, did it." and so on. But, so he had a large impression on me. Unfortunately, I didn't get to finish church school with him, but he put me on track to be okay. I took my last 2 years in one. And then I was able to go to academy, which was another blessing, and many of you have had that opportunity, some of you have not. It's a different setting than a regular school, but it was good because my closest friends today are ones that I went to academy with. And I think a lot of you that went can relate to that. A lot of my experiences come from academy. I mean, Berlin and Sherry, they were there. They were older than I was, so they were mean to me. I'm just kidding. So, no. But it was just a good experience. Ups and downs. I mean, when I was younger, before I got to academy, done the Sabbath school, church school thing, Pathfinders, all these opportunities. I'd read my Bible completely through before I was probably 13. 6th grade environmental school, which is where we'd go to Broken Arrow, and you would do these little Bible quiz thing. You know, it was a whole weekend thing, and I mean, everybody fought over me because they wanted me to be on their team because I knew all the answers. So, and through academy, academically, I remember studying once, and that was for Mr. Goodchild's elements test that we had to pass all the element table, the periodic table of elements. We had to learn all those. That's the only time I remember studying through academy. I was just naturally able to listen and do well. Also, academy was, through the good and the bad, academy was a good end of, it had some hard experiences. I had a lot of teachers in academy. All of my teachers inspired me. Now, some of them inspired me positively, and others I can look at and say, okay, I'm not going to do that, but it was all part of the experience, and I think they made me the teacher that I am now, looking back on that. I can't remember if it was freshman or sophomore year, there was because I was pretty religious as a kid, there was a week of prayer speaker, and he did an altar call, and the first part of his altar call was he called anyone who felt that they'd been called to the ministry. And I had this little voice in my head saying, you need to get up, you need to get up, you need to go. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I just kind of felt that call, I guess you might say. I didn't go. And we'll come back to that later. But I always kind of felt, I wonder if I should have got up. And then I'm like, well, if I get up, then I'm going to have to do that because everybody's going to see me do that. So it was one of those things you struggle with. Then moving on through academy, my senior year, throughout my academy career, I chased a lot of girls. They all ran faster than me though, so didn't have a lot of girlfriends, had a few. One of them, my first girlfriend is a Hall County Sheriff's deputy now, so I have to be careful. I give her a hard time and thank her for not arresting me every once in a while. But we dated for 5 days. So that shows you I have to count that as my. So anyway, my senior year, I had it narrowed down to 3. These were my 3 picks. One was the principal's daughter, and she let it be known plainly that she was not interested. So the other one was a little too interested, and I remember one Sabbath, because my brother and I were deacons, and we would stand in the back, and this girl came up to me, I won't say any names because a lot of you do know her, and she's like, come sit with me in church. I'm like, okay. Didn't really know, I was kind of on the fence there, and I was like, well, maybe. And so she's like, come sit with me in church. And she's like, commanded me to come sit with her in church. And I'm like, okay. So I told my brother, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go sit with her. He's like, I'll just come sit with me. So I went and sat with him, and she was very angry, but that sealed that deal. So we were down to 1. And that one, it was one of those weird things because through academy, I mean, she came her freshman year, she was 1 grade behind me. Never really noticed her until that senior year. I started kind of taking notice. She was always just, Clifton's little sister. But But my friend Chris and I used to go give her a hard time. She was always there. She worked for Mr. Muckelberg in the shop, so she would always be there, and we'd just go give her a hard time. And my brother kept bugging me. He's like, well, what are you going to do or whatever? And I said, well, I'm interested in these other girls, but I said, there's Rebecca. So one banquet, we accidentally, neither one of us had a date, and we just ended up sitting by each other. I promised myself I wasn't going to do this, but we ended up sitting by each other, just out of a fluke and talking. And then for the movie, she told her friend, Paula, she's like, well, let's go sit with Kevin. So Paula, being Paula, for those of you who knew her, came and sat by me, which always made Rebecca mad, because the idea was for her to sit by me and not for Paula. But, so that was a little bit of a confusion, which we laughed about later. Long story short, we started a date my senior year right before Christmas, which was one of my rules, never start dating a girl right before Christmas, because then you gotta buy her a Christmas present. But
Good rule. I like that.
so I broke that rule, and we started dating, and my other thing was, well, I'm gonna go off to Union next year, there's gonna be all those college girls, so I'm gonna have to break up with her when I leave. So that was my plan, being the jerk that I was at that age, I was gonna break up with her at the end of the year. Well, those of you that know, that didn't happen. So, went off to college, she stayed there. College was rough for me the first time because, like I said, I studied once in the academy that I can remember, and college is a lot different. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and my girlfriend wasn't there, and so that made it harder too. So it come down to midterm of that. Well, I did my first semester, and it came down to midterm of the second semester. And the financial aid guy, we're getting ready for midterms, mind you, and I'm walking into the administration building, getting ready to go to class. The financial guy catches me, and he's like, oh, by the way, you need to come up to my office after midterms. We need to talk about your financial aid, because we're going to have to take it all away, because we overlooked how your brother filed, and so something happened. Don't worry about it. Concentrate on your midterms and then come talk to me. And so I'm sitting there, okay. Union College was expensive, even for those of us who got the subsidy from our parents working for the conference. It was still the most expensive English class I ever took, since that's all that transferred. But so that was the time where I started thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want to do. They're just telling me my financial aid's going away. Basically what I think had happened is they were going to have to switch me from the subsidized to unsubsidized loans, but I didn't understand that as a kid. I had 3 finals the next day and a large paper that I hadn't started yet. And I said, if I'm going to quit college, that would be a really good time to do it. So I called my dad, and my parents have been very supportive. I don't know why. I guess it's because they're my parents. But he said, just come home, we'll put you to work. So I packed up my stuff, went home, worked at the academy. And, off and on, that job was always kind of my go-back-to job. The thing I did learn from the academy, even working there, was that I like to work with kids. I like to work with high school age or, that type of kids. You just learn a lot from it, you can have a lot of fun, but you can still, you build those relationships. I still talk to some of the ones that I supervised, because I worked in a supervised capacity, and you've never really gotten to know a high school age kid until you have to, bring them down at 2 o'clock in the morning to milk cows. I mean, you just really get to know people on a different level when you're that early and that tired. It was a good experience. So I graduated in 1996. Rebecca graduated in 1997. We had a little area there where I was stupid and broke up a little bit, but anyway, we got married in 1998. I was 20, she was 19. I tell a lot of people that, they're like, wow, you guys were just kids. And I'm like, yeah, we were just kids, but wouldn't change a minute of it. So we got married, and I was working for an electrician at the time in Grand Island, and then we ended up working at the academy. And throughout my life, I've held a lot of different jobs, which I know they say is a bad thing, but it's helped me in a lot of ways. And I know I was in a job interview one time, and they said, well, we see you've had a lot of jobs here. And they said, well, the positive thing that we can see from that is you've had a lot of these jobs twice, which means that they'll hire you back. And I think I can honestly say up here that of all the people that I have worked for, there's probably one job that I could not go back to. Other than that, I've been able to. I mean, we're growing up on a dairy farm. You learn work ethic. You learn what's expected. You learn how to work hard. And so I think that was one of the best lessons I learned. It was funny though, because going back to that academy and getting ready for college, and Rebecca's family. The first time I went out to see her parents, I had met them before, but not really, just kind of briefly. And all the way out there to drive out to Wyoming, Rebecca's like, my dad's not going to talk to you at all, so don't be offended. He never talks to any of my boyfriends. So that's just him. So that first night, Ralph kept me up till like 2 o'clock in the morning, just talking. Those of you that know Ralph, he's not a talker. And he talked to me till 2 o'clock in the morning. And then the next day we drove to the ranch, and he talked the whole way there and the whole way back. And Rebecca was just floored. She's like, I don't know what's wrong with him. So anyway, we got married. Actually, we got married right here in this church. And life throws those storms at you, and I can't say everything was always great, but through the ups and downs, you learn a lot. So like I said, I had several different jobs, got married, was able to work at the academy on a couple different occasions, which I attribute a lot to my dad, because I would work there for a while and then I'd get some other idea, I'm going to go do this, and then they'd always find a place for me to come back when I needed to come back. But I think a lot of that inspired me to work with the kids. We moved to Lincoln. I worked at apartments there. The first apartment complex I worked at, they didn't like to pay me on time. It was once a month, and so they had trouble getting the paycheck to me on time. So that didn't work, so I quit, and I was looking for a job. And went and worked for the Department of Corrections for 5 weeks and 1 day. And that's the job I don't think I'd ever get back. I don't know if I'd ever want it back. So I went through all the training, and I don't know if any of you have experience with that type of work. Went through all the training, went to work at the Diagnostic and Evaluation Center the first night. They're supposed to have 2 weeks of on-the-job training. The guy who was supposed to train me called in sick. So here I am, fresh out of training. You hear all these terrible stories for the last 5 weeks on all these things that these people will do to you, and then you're there by yourself, sitting there all night. And there was one person that, I kid you not, you know how the doors have the little window on the side? He stood all night in that door and looked at me all night. And yeah, you learn all these different weapons they make and stuff, and so I'm like, I don't think I'm the right kind of person to work in this environment. So I ended up quitting that job without a notice, and that's why I say I probably wouldn't be able to go back. It's the only job I've really done that to. But I still, life experiences we learn. So then I was without a job again. And so I had to do, we didn't have kids yet, so it wasn't quite as big of a deal, but you still need to pay rent, you still need to pay the bills. So I ended up applying at another apartment complex. I'm like, well, I can do this work, it's grounds work. And I ended up working there for 2.5 years. For some great ladies that were managers. And I mean, sometimes it can be frustrating because all of you who have a job know that your bosses usually don't know what it's like to do your job. So that can be frustrating sometimes. But they were very supportive. Actually, so much that when we were getting ready to have Jacob, they told me, because I was being the typical guy, I wasn't really interested in going to all those doctor's appointments, they told my wife that she needed to call them, let me know when the appointments were, and I would be going to the appointments with her. So I got to be able to have that experience. And then after Jacob was born, we moved back to the academy. And the academy is also where we were living at the academy when the twins were born. And then I got the idea that I needed to drive a truck because you can make a lot of money being a truck driver. So, and this was probably, I mean, it was a good experience, it was a bad experience too. So we moved to Lincoln again. I started driving a truck for Schneider. Loved the job for the first 6 months. Loved working for Schneider. They were good to their drivers. The only drawback was that I was out for about 4 to 6 weeks and home for a day or two, and then out again. And they always had you scheduled out for a load before you got home, and you were never home on time. So just a lot of, with young kids, I just feel like I missed out on a lot of that. You kind of get that experience where your kids, you just get that bond back with your kids, and then you load up in the truck and head out again. So I worked for them for about 6 months like that, and then I had the opportunity to work for Creek Carriers, and they were able to get me home a little more. I originally was going to work in the national fleet for Crete. I had it worked out with a fleet manager, because when I was with Schneider, I wasn't really where I needed to be spiritually, so Sabbath wasn't really as important to me as it should have been. So I did drive on Sabbath. I had it worked out with Crete fleet manager out of Council Bluffs that I'd be able to get Sabbath off working for them. I just might have to take it off on miles or something. I'm like, okay, I can do that. Well, then I got a call from someone, and they said, well, we can get you on this Walmart fleet out of North Platte. You'll be home a lot more often. So I ended up taking that one. But the drawback was I wasn't able to get my Sabbath off. So I was still driving a truck. I did it for about another 1.5 years. And it was hard, just because even though I was able to be home more, I wasn't able to be home for long periods of time. So Rebecca did a lot. I mean, she did a lot with the kids because you had 3 young kids and your husband was gone. Truck driving, though, was not a good choice for me because although I liked it at first, I was gone a lot, and it had some health issues. Because for those of you that know me, I used to be pretty skinny. When I was driving a truck to stay awake, I would drink about 5 or 6 Mountain Dews a day, and just eat junk. And everybody would be like, "Well, you need to go for walks," and I'm like, I'm not going to go for a walk in downtown Chicago at night. That doesn't go well for pasty white farm boys from Nebraska. So some of the places we went, it was not feasible on the national fleet. The first time I went to Miami, you drive down someone knows, but you drove down the street, busy. You're in a bad part of town when there is signs on the buildings that say, by police order, it's illegal to deal drugs within 100 feet of this building. And it's like, you're kind of thinking, isn't that kind of a given? That's illegal to deal drugs anywhere. And then you see these people like just transacting business right there in front of you, like big bag of what, just like in the movies, they actually do this in real life too. Real big bag of powder, a lot of money, walk by, switch, and then right around the corner is where I parked for the night. So you're not going to get out and exercise. So I gained a lot of weight, and my blood pressure shot through the roof. I I went into the doctor in Gothenburg one time when I was home because I was sick, I wasn't feeling good, so I called dispatch and I said, I'm not going to be able to go out. And they said, you know, part of that too is you got to go when dispatch wants you to go because they do their math and they think you could do all these trips that you can't. So sleep is not something you get a lot of. So I remember times where, and I mean, talk about, I wasn't necessarily where I needed to be with God, but apparently God hadn't given up on me yet, because I could tell you some stories. I mean, a lot of you guys can get up here and tell stories about where God saved your life. You know, I haven't had that experience. I haven't been to war. I haven't, like some of you have, I haven't done that. But when you're driving 2,700 plus miles a week on little sleep and stuff, you see a lot. I mean, I had a time in Mobile, Alabama where I was driving along, nobody else on the road. I was looking for the Kimberly-Clark warehouse, and I saw in my rearview mirror this car, this little white car, just comes right up the ramp, right into the concrete median, does a couple spins and keeps on driving. I mean, if the timing had been a little different, they would have went right under my trailer. One time on 83 by Oberlin, Kansas, you know, it's really windy there, and I was coming, it was dark, it was night, because at Walmart, when I worked, we did the Walmart fleet for Crete. We did all our, well, not all, but most of our driving at night, because you had to have your deliveries done. You know, frozen and meats had to be done by midnight, and meat and produce had to be 6 in the morning, so you were driving at night. And I was driving down there on Highway 83 by Oberlin, and I'm coming around the corner, and you see headlights in your lane of another truck coming. And I swear I mean, about that much between our mirrors. And I mean, at times driving into Chicago, where, well, it was Denver, driving into Denver where you didn't want to take the load because you were tired, but dispatch is like, oh, we'll make sure you get home tomorrow if you take this load. So then you're driving, and the next thing you know, you're driving towards the concrete bridge pillars. I mean, so God was really kind of watching out for me, even though I wasn't necessarily doing much for Him at that time. And I just feel like He kept me going, even though I didn't always make the right choices. Finally, though, my health, I was sick that time, and I called in, and they said, well, you need to go to the doctor. And I went to the doctor in Gothenburg, and he said, I don't know how you haven't had a stroke yet with your blood pressure. So he's, you know, we went through all that, and got my blood pressure down. And to get my medical card back, you have to go in for 3 days in a row and have your blood pressure between a certain thing. And I finally got that done, and then Rebecca's like, I don't really want you to go back. And I'm like, I don't really want to either. So that's when I decided to quit driving truck, look for a local job. And Gothenburg, there wasn't really a whole lot available. There was one job that I thought I was going to get. This is another thing, God looking out for you, I guess, even when you're not doing anything for Him. I thought I was going to get this job, and then a couple months after I would have started the job, they the people went to work and they wouldn't even let them in the building. They're like, we're closing down. This is not good. So Rebecca decided to take on 2 jobs, and I couldn't find anything, so I was take care of the kids. So I got to do the stay-at-home dad thing for a while. And then I decided to go back to college. Which turned out to be a good decision, because I found out I'm a lot better student the second time around than I was the first time, and I knew what I wanted to do, I thought. So I started out in teaching. Well, I want to get my teaching degree. Well, then on November 23rd, I got a phone call on the way home, and it was Rebecca, and she said that she wasn't feeling well, and most of you know that story. Ended up with her passing away from spontaneous dissection, they called it. Basically, from my understanding, is there was a hole in the artery that had kind of worn through that fed her heart. That's kind of the worst day of my life, and life was really, really hard after that. Mom and Dad, once again, were very helpful, and so that we could finish out where we were at. The kids could finish their year out of school. Mom came and stayed with me during the week, and until that school year was over. moved back out to the academy, which wasn't there anymore, but the houses were still there. So they were able to help while I kind of got back on my feet. And this was a very discouraging time in my life. I didn't really have much interest in church at that time. I was mad at God. And this kind of goes back to the verse I read at the beginning, the train up a child. I'd be talking to the kids and they would say something about, the one I remember is, well, about that guy that the donkey talked to him and stuff. And I'm like, well, how'd you hear this stuff? Because, you know, I've been gone a lot. And they said, well, Mommy used to tell us while we were taking baths. So that comforts me knowing that even when I was not doing what I should be doing, she was still looking out for the kids. So I was able to stay in college with the help of a lot of professors. I mean, my speech professor, when I went to the funeral, when you go to a funeral and your college professor from a public college is standing there, it kind of leaves an impression on you because he wouldn't have had to come. He skipped classes that day. He came out. He had passed an envelope through my speech class, and these are college kids who are broke, and they filled that thing up with basically what was in their pockets. So, I mean, just to support me. I was able to finish that semester. I had one professor say, do you really want to be here? And I said, well, really, I just need to keep my mind busy. He's like, I understand that. So I thought everything was all right going into the next semester, and I was sitting in history class with Dr. Rohr's history class at UNK here, and I thought everything was all right. I was still, thought I had everything under control, and I come into class one day, it was for Colonial America, and I'm sitting there, and everybody had these papers that they were getting ready. I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, you got your research paper. And I said, well, that's not due till next week. They said, no, that's due today. So one kid's like, well, you need to just tell him you lost your flash drive. Just tell him you lost your flash drive and we'll get it to him when you can. Well, I'm not going to lie to him, so I just went and found him. And I just explained to him what happened. And he said, well, just get it to me by Wednesday and it'll be fine. And it comes to find out, he talked to me later, so I got to know him pretty well. Because he came and asked me, he's like, are you sure you want to be in college? Are you sure you don't need to take some more time off? Because he had found out what had happened. And because he had lost a brother when he was in college. And through the support of a lot of those guys, I was able to make it through that year. And then a lot of you know, I finally worked through things. Decided to move back to Lincoln because that's where I thought I needed to be. Started dating a girl too early, I think, and that didn't work out. The kids hated Lincoln Public School. Things just weren't going great. I changed my major several times. That's the frustrating thing about my life story is I changed my major a lot of times, probably added a year to my school and ended up in the same major that I started in. So, then I was able to kind of get to a point where I thought, well, me and that lady broke up, and I was like, well, I'll finally, try this online dating thing again. So, got on there, wasn't having much luck, because here's how that conversation goes. It's like, oh, I lost my wife, oh, that's sad, and I have 3 kids. Hello? Kind of thing, So I had a lot of that, and then it's funny because Holly, my ex-girlfriend, texted me one night. She's like, "There's this girl on this website that I really think you should just come talk to her. There's this lady on this website. I think you should come talk to her." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So anyway, that's how I met Deb, and we ended up, getting together and talking. And the original plan, well, I went out to meet her. Our original plan was that eventually we would move out there because that's where her family is. And then I went out to meet her, and I think she knew that wasn't going to work because, it's basically, as far as I'm concerned, everything east of Ohio is a city because that's basically how it is. She argues with me all the time, but yeah. So she knew kind of that I'd be a fish out of water there, so she started making plans. She said that she knew that was the time she knew that she was going to have to be the one to move. So she ended up moving out here. And it's been really great because she, not having kids her own, we haven't had that conflict where I would have had in some other situations where I can discipline your kids, but you can't discipline my kids kind of thing. It's been great because she treats the kids like they're her own. And they view her like she's mom. So we got together. I was still in school. Then jumping back to right after Rebecca's death and me not going to church, the thing that got me back to going to church, and there's 3 reasons, and they're sitting right back there. And they would come home every week because mom and dad would take them and they'd be like, "Oh, church was fun today. Sabbath school was fun today." And I have this church to thank for that. And they would say, "I think you should come with us next week." I'm like, "Oh, I'll see how I feel, you know." And then finally I started coming back and was able to get more involved. And once I started getting things together. So that was great that they were able to have that experience. And as I started coming back and I was able to get more involved, we ended up moving back here so I could finish at UNK. When I decided to go back into education, there was nowhere else I wanted to go but here at UNK because it's a great teacher school. And then a lot of that you guys know after that because I was able to, first I didn't know if I was able to find a job teaching, and then I was able to find one last minute, and I love teaching. I feel like I finally found out what I want to do. And I can owe that a lot to the teachers that have inspired me through the years. So I guess the theme in my life, I guess you could say, is hope. Because sometimes it's hard to keep that hope when times get rough. But if we look at Psalms 39, 7, and 8, it says, "And now, Lord, what do I wait for? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the reproach of the foolish." That one kind of struck me because there was a time when things were rough. I wasn't quite living my life like I should. And this kind of struck me because it says that my hope is in you. Deliver me from my transgressions. And I think that's the time in our lives when we realize that it's not about what we can do. We have to put our hope in Christ, and we have to have Him deliver us from our transgressions. And I think until I really made that connection, it was hard for me to do that, to get on the track that I needed to be. Psalm 71:5. We'll flip over there real quick. It says, "For you are my hope, O Lord God. You are my trust from my youth." Even in that time when I wasn't going to church, and I never officially left the church, I guess, but I just didn't go. I still knew what was right. I still had that church school I could fall back on, and that training as a child, and that hope, and that trust in God. And it's funny because even when you're not necessarily doing what you should be doing, God can still kind of use situations, because you'd get in some pretty interesting conversations at a truck stop or at a terminal when you're waiting for loads and stuff. And I mean, some of these things would still come up, even though I wasn't really wanting it. Sometimes God still says, "I'm still going to use you, even if you're not going to cooperate." Ephesians 4. Ephesians 4:22 is where I'm going to start. So it said that you put off concerning your former conduct the old man which grows corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you be put on the new man which was created according to God in true righteousness and holiness. Therefore, putting away lying, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath, nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole no longer, but rather let him labor, working with his hands what is good, that he may have something to give him who is in need. Let no corrupt proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, wrath, anger, clamor, and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you. Therefore be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma. I mean, that's kind of a good text, a good group of texts for me, because once we make that decision, then that's the time when we have to make that decision to put away the old man and let God change us. So that's kind of the experience I've been going through in my life, is just giving up that control. And I'll be honest, sometimes I still get angry. I still don't know why things happen. I got questions for God, but I think that's okay. The one, and I struggled with this one, but the one verse that I have a hard time with, is probably the verse I have the hardest time with in the Bible, and it's supposed to be the best one, but it's Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. And that purpose that God has for us is something that I think sometimes we may not know why these things happen until we get to heaven. And like I said, I told a friend of mine once that I've got a lot of questions that I've got to ask. But also, I've been very blessed in my life. I've had 2 amazing wives, and I mean, it's just been an up and down experience, but it's been good. I think we have a good church here who's willing to let my kids get involved, let all the youth get involved, let me get up here every once in a while and ramble on. So thanks for that. And I'll leave it at that for today.
Amen.